Kevin Durant is a Rocket. I had eyes on this a year ago. Roll the clip.
A lot of people slept on this. I didn't. Okay. Third Eye Gifted is in the building. Conspiracy Gifted is in the building. When I saw the report that said the Houston Rockets are interested in Kevin Durant, a lot of people laughed at it. A lot of people didn't care about shit. But if there's one thing we know, the connections between KD and Texas as a whole is a thing. How does that make y'all feel as Rockets fans? Again, it's a big conspiracy. A lot of things have to fall in place for that to be true, but it's something I'm keeping my eyes on for sure. Because the Suns team is kind of in flux. Bradley Beal is making too much money. They can't really drastically get better. Obviously, KD is getting older. I'm just eyeing it there. I'm eyeing it.
Kevin Durant's been traded. I just woke up. I know I stayed up way too long yesterday, but Kevin Durant is officially traded. We've been waiting for many, many days in between the NBA finals. A lot of speculation was on when the trade would happen, what day, what time, what team. It was 3 teams. Many teams were involved, but we officially have a trade for Kevin Durant. Here is the partner that finally got it done. Kevin Durant has been traded from the Phoenix Suns to the Houston Rockets for Jalen Green, Dillon Brooks, the 10th pick in this year's NBA draft, and 5 second-round picks. Wow. There's a larger conversation to be had about Kevin Durant and his legacy and all of this, yada, yada, yada. But I want to really focus on the basketball parts of this first for the Houston Rockets. This is a team that last year surprised a lot of people. They were number 2 in the Western Conference. They just won 7 games with the Golden State Warriors. And I think something important to talk about in that series is their defense was legitimately great for the entirety of the series. Their problem as to why they lost in the playoffs this year were that their half-court offense was terrible. They could not consistently generate good shots. And even with that, the guys executing the shots simply were not efficient enough. But Kevin Durant going to Houston, specifically with his skill set as a guy that you can give the ball and trust on to hit shots, really changes the dynamic of how serious this Houston Rockets team really is. To get Kevin Durant, the Rockets had to give up Jalen Green and Dillon Brooks as the player assets. I want to dive into what I think about that before we get to other parts of this trade. So let's do that real quick. Dillon Brooks is a solid player. He plays good defense. He can knock down shots. He's seen some improvements in his game, but overall, he is still a role player who has flaws that showed in multiple different areas in the playoffs as well. And I think that Tari Eason is a young player as well that has a lot of upside and value similar to that of Dillon Brooks, if not flat out better, especially in the rebounding category. I just think Tari Eason can approximate some of that value that Dillon Brooks in 2025 gave you. And if we're going to do the Jalen Green conversation, let's do it. I think he's one of the most inconsistent players in the NBA. I think he's been one of the most overrated players in the NBA. A lot of people thought Jalen Green was the best player on this Rockets team for the entire season, headed into the playoffs. And what did he do in the playoffs? 13 points a game, sub 40% true shooting, which, by the way, outside of that one great game he had, he would have averaged 9 points for the rest of the series on abysmal shooting. I'm not going to rule out that he might play better, but I think it's a big red flag when a couple days before this trade actually happened, there was a report saying that the Suns want to reroute Jalen Green to another team because they don't want him on the same team as Bradley Beal and Devin Booker. And now we're here. So to me, that ideally speaks about what the league perceives his value to be. You might get some other assets in that, but honestly, trading both of those players for Kevin Durant is a landslide trade you do 10 times out of 10 if you're the Houston Rockets. Jalen Green specifically, you can make a real argument that he is the reason why they lost to the Golden State Warriors. Because if he was able to do the bare minimum average of what he was able to do for the regular season, they probably win that series comfortably. But the fact that he was so bad, so abysmal in his shot selection, diet, and actual execution, the fact that he was so bad, that's why they lost the series in a way. And now you're replacing that with Kevin Durant, who's one of the best scorers we've ever seen. I don't want to wax poetic on who Kevin Durant is. We know and understand who he is, but the efficiency from a catch and shoot standpoint, the off-ball gravity he provides as well as a scorer, it can open up a lot of dynamic things, especially with the amount of athletic wings and dynamic cutters they have on this roster. So to me, again, just player for player wise, what he does for Houston is properly elevate them into the contender status seriously. I take this team a lot more serious when their main bread and butter recipe for winning in the playoffs was, hey, we're going to concede that our half-court offense is terrible. What we're going to do is out-rebound you. You're not going to get these rebounds. We're going to have the size over you. We can play triple big at times, and we're going to get more possessions and get to the free throw line more. That same team replaces Dillon Brooks and Jalen Green with Kevin Durant, which is going to improve Tari Eason's role. And specifically, Jabari Smith will now probably get more burn as well. So they have more size now, actually, more length, and they have a guy who can be a dynamic go-to scorer to take pressure off of their offense. This is such a dramatic shift to a team that was a game away from going to the second round. I think this is a phenomenal deal if you're the Houston Rockets. I really, really do. Let's talk about the Phoenix Suns. I got clips on them too. I want to note this. That Bradley Beal name could potentially bite them in the ass in the next 2 to 3 years because of his no trade clause. Because remember, what teams do oftentimes, we going to go get this big name. If things don't work, we'll blow it up. It's fine. Guess what? He has a no trade clause. So it might come down to, well, we can't trade Beal because his value's not there and he doesn't want to be traded because of his no trade clause. So we now have to trade one of Booker or Kevin Durant. That could be a realistic possibility that we're looking at. That was 2 years ago, because that's how dumb of a decision the Bradley Beal trade was to me. That's how stupid it was, because when you're trading for a player that is not the same player he was, has more injuries, and more importantly, is an asset that you cannot get out of because of that no trade clause, you force your own hand. And the fact that this team underperformed again this season, coming off of being swept 4-0, they put themselves in a spot where, well, we have to trade someone to get value, and this is the value you got back. The Phoenix Suns traded 4 unprotected first-round picks, Cam Johnson, Mikal Bridges, for Kevin Durant. That's what they did. They traded that, and then you trade him again within 2 years for Jalen Green? For Dillon Brooks? Like, the value is not, man, it's not adding up. And now it puts more pressure because, again, there were already reports saying they wanted to reroute Jalen Green. So now you have to get draft assets back for that. I'm not quite sure what that looks. There might have to be some other pieces of salary there. Or maybe they lied and they try to keep him and maybe he raises to that star ceiling next to Devin Booker. I doubt it. I really, really doubt it. But it's like, regardless of that, at least on its face, the value is not the same. It's just not. So like, I just, words cannot describe how bad I feel for Suns fans who had this idea of a team that literally went to the finals. They didn't win, but they went to the finals. And instead of like building upon that blueprint, staying young, having picks, having your flexibility, you traded all that for 2 years of Kevin Durant, which went nowhere. First round exits, disappointments. Like, you didn't really get far. The furthest you got was the second round. So like, it's such a tough spot for them to be in. And now I think the pick that we talked about in my Desmond Bane video is going to be very, very valuable. I'm sorry. The 2026 Phoenix Suns without Kevin Durant, if they don't make other trades, it could be really, really bad for the Suns in this upcoming year. So like, my head just can't get around what they just did. I think Houston absolutely fleeced them. If I'm wrong, hey, I'll take that. I will take that. But I think they got fleeced. I think that the value that they got back, considering what their identity was, considering how they consistently built upon what they did, they didn't trade any key pieces in what they already did that were not at least make-upable. I think they won. I just think they won. And for the Suns to be in this situation, it speaks to just how bad front office management was for a trade of this ilk to happen. And I'm going to say this. I'm going to say this. And again, I'm a huge fan of the NBA. I am a fan of the players. I am a player first guy. I don't really value the front offices to the same way I do the players. If you made this trade, and by you, I'm speaking directly to the Suns owners. If you made this trade because you wanted to appease Kevin Durant, not because there was a better trade on the table for you to personally take, shame on you. Shame on you. Because for you to not take the best trade available and you got this, I think is ludicrous. I do. Now, what they do after this point, I think is the fair thing to judge them on. What their player development looks like, what their draft pick selections look like. That's what we'll grade them on. But this fell apart within 2 years. It's an absolute failure by the Phoenix Suns, in my opinion. So in closing, I feel like the Houston Rockets won this trade pretty comfortably. We do have to see exactly what these picks turn into, but they still have their picks for the future years. And that's really just the biggest thing about this trade. They didn't have to trade future picks. They didn't. Right. So they're able to keep some sense of flexibility. I thought they would have really had to empty multiple cupboards. They didn't have to do that. So the fact that that wasn't a thing for them, and it's mainly just the pick this year with 5 second-round picks. I think if you're Houston, to get a player like Kevin Durant specifically for what your biggest flaw was, I think this team might have just made the biggest trade for what they needed outside of the Orlando Magic. I do got to say that about them. So I'm excited to see what that turns into. I think this is a top 3 contender in the Western Conference next year. I feel confident in saying that. And honestly, what comes of it, we have to see. Because remember, even though I'm saying all this now, they still have to stay healthy. To be quite fair, Van Vliet gets hurt. Tari Eason gets hurt. Kevin Durant also misses time in regular season. So these are fair questions to have about their team. But if they are healthy, they're a serious contender to win it all next year. I really do believe that. So it'll be fun to see exactly what this turns into. About the Eastern Conference, the Eastern Conference is man, like the amount of star talent that just stays out west is kind of crazy, man. But it'll be fun. We'll see what takes place next year. I'll have more follow-up thoughts about this in the game stream tonight. I'm going to be live on Playback breaking down basketball for Oklahoma City and the Pacers game 7. I know this takes away completely from it, but yeah, man, the NBA is a wild place. I'll be bringing back the podcast to detail all 30 teams in this offseason. Again, it's the Gifted Who's podcast where you saw these 2 clips from. Make sure to tap in. But I'll catch you guys. Peace out. Have a good one. Tap into the live stream tonight. Links will be in the comments and description box. Peace.